And we are live. Hello, everyone. I want to say Happy New Year, Happy Valentine's Day, celebrating Black History Month, all of those things. It's my first live this year, intentionally. So I'm always, you'll hear me say this a lot, but I'm really excited because my guest today is Dr. Nabil and Dr. Nabil El-Ghoroury. I know I'm butchering it, but I'm gonna roll them R's. I'm gonna get it right someday. But we're gonna say Dr. Nabil today is my guest. He is the president, the executive director, president of the California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. We refer to as CAMFT. And he is going to talk to us today, one, about advancing to the C suite, success in the C suite, and also about cultivating change during chaotic times. I want to know a lot about you, how you advanced to your role, and also how you're navigating change in everything that's going on here and around the world today, but specifically, here in the U.S. and any advice that you would have. So I have a ton of questions, but I want people to know that you were recognized by the American Society for Association Executives as an emerging association leader. And you were invited to the Diversity Executive Leadership Program a couple of years ago, from which you continue to coach and mentor other young emerging leaders and executives all across the country. I know that you presented at conferences in both Spanish and in English. You are strong on self-care and leadership, ethics, and legal issues. I mean, you're just one of those leaders that you just have a broad range and depth of skill. So I'm going to try to pull on all of them this evening. So thank you so much for giving me a little sunshine from the West Coast today, because I got it here on the East Coast. But I want to hear from you. First, talk to me a little bit about how did you position yourself to get that top seat? Because a lot of people want that, but I'd be curious to know what you did to get there. What are some tips and things you've done?
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And welcome from sunny San Diego, where we are cold when it's 68 and hot. We complain it's too hot when it's 76. So it's been quite a bit of a change from DC. So how I positioned myself for the C-suite, I give so much credit to DELP, that's a Diversity Executive Leadership Program. Mm-hmm. It's really through DELP that I met other CEOs who look like me, who have had similar backgrounds, and inspired me to really think about and pursue the next opportunity. Before I was in DELP, I didn't know I really wasn't even thinking about a C-suite position.
Really?
Yeah. So it was going to DELP, going to my first ASAE annual, which was in 2016 in Salt Lake City. And I remember seeing Richard Yep's session on how to become a CEO.
Wow.
And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to be a CEO. And so I made a goal for myself. I gave myself at that point a year and a half. Mm-hmm. A year and a half? No, I might even give myself 2 years from then.
Okay.
But I had in my head, okay, by the end of 2018, I was going to have. By the end of 2018, I was going to have a C-suite job.
Wow.
And then what I did was start applying. I was working with an executive coach on improving my resume and my cover letter and describing my skills, because my job at the American Psychological Association was director of the graduate student group, but was functionally a CEO of a medium-sized organization within a big organization, because I was a jack of all trades.
Did you sort of position yourself that way? Because there are a lot of people who are in director positions who feel the same way. Do you feel like you were able to position yourself to in the on the resume, in the interview, sort of, what do you think was the determining factor there? Because that feels like a leap, but you were able to make it successfully.
Um, I managed to sell myself in a variety of ways. So fiscally responsible, because I had a budget about $750,000, and we were always under budget. Um, Marketing and events, because we started some new events under my experience and got some great turnout, great sponsorships, so I could talk about recruitment and membership recruitment and retention, as well as revenue generation. And then advocacy, because I was doing a little bit of advocacy, so I could talk. So I had a great result where I got 3,100 people to write to Governor Cuomo about a training issue in psychology in 2011, November of 2011.
Wow.
So I was able to sell myself as some, I really could say that I was functionally like an ED.
Yeah.
In a but within a big organization.
Yeah, and what was interesting is you hit on some key things. You talked about revenue generation, you talked about advocacy, membership, marketing, communications, finance. You really hit on some key things. How much of that is important? Like if you were to say, all of it, is it association specific? Somebody's trying to ascend to that next level. Having touched so many different areas, you could speak to those things with credibility. I think that obviously made you an attractive candidate. How does somebody go about getting that kind of experience if they don't have it now? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think if you are a director and have a budget, you're responsible for money,
Yeah.
and so you can sell yourself as fiscally responsible by staying within your budget. Or if you have revenue opportunities, you can sell that and sell it broadly, because you may only generate a couple hundred memberships. I'm thinking individual membership association, right. Which is a couple hundred membership is not a lot, but it is compared to zero, and it's kind of how you sell it.
Yeah.
And so I was, and then the other thing I frankly was incredibly lucky that this opportunity opened up, and this is a position made in heaven. Yeah. I'm in the mental health industry, and I grew up in San Diego, and this job that I'm at right now is headquartered in San Diego. So I came home.
Yeah.
Like I was the unicorn for this job.
Well, and speaking of mental health, so you're the association for marriage and family therapists. Y'all staying busy these days, aren't you? You can't talk about anything in detail, but whoo, Lord have mercy.
This pandemic has really underscored the importance of mental health, because everyone is tapped out. Everyone is tapped out. Parents are tapped out. Kids are tapped out. And so when I'm talking to colleagues, talking to my members, what I'm hearing is, everyone, okay, so they were already full before the pandemic started. Some of them lost some clients in the first month as people said, well, let's take a break, and when this is all over, we can come back, and I'll go back to the office and we'll see you. And then it started to not last just a month or two. Mm-hmm. And people started coming back via telehealth. So within 3 months, people were back to where they had been in general. But then everyone's former clients started getting stressed and wanting to come in.
Wow.
And then new clients started coming in. So a lot of therapists are full and have wait lists that are full, and they're not even taking wait lists anymore. I think there's going to be, we as we emerge out of COVID, mental health is there. The crisis is going to have to be addressed at the federal level, and I'm hoping that can be an opportunity for my organization, but also for the field.
Yeah, the crisis is gonna continue long after this is quote unquote over, if
Right.
such a thing exists.
Right.
What do you feel like one thing? There's one thing that's made a difference in in getting you leading you into this top role as executive director.
I think getting my earning my CAE
Okay.
was incredibly helpful. I'm very proud of my CAE. Um, so I was studying for the CAE as I was applying for this job. And the
Yeah.
CAE process really does help you think at that strategic level, at that helicopter level, and not from operations, not from
Yeah.
implementing. And so many directors immediately just jump into let's fix it rather than stop, let's examine the issue, let's look around, and so I think that process of thinking from a strategic level is really was instrumental in helping me get to the C-suite level.
Yeah. So not only did you have obviously, your PhD, but you felt like having that sort of stamp of approval from the Association for Associations was important. It just shows that you're taking the profession seriously, that you're a student of the profession, and that means that the organization, the board, for example, can trust that you're going to stay on top of what is required to lead and run the organization successfully. So I totally get that. What about I want to go back to this idea and this concept of mindset. I do a lot of work in executive presence, and there are lots of conversations around having this leadership or this executive mindset. But as an executive at the top, how can you create balance, mental, emotional, sort of physical balance, especially in a space like this. You're doing so much in this space. I'm just curious, how do you create balance?
Balance is hard. uh, it is especially when our space is merged. So when in the pandemic, our live space and our workspace are the same. Um, I happen to be very lucky right now. I'm actually filming from my company office, which is 2 miles down the road from me,
Yeah,
and it's unoccupied right now. So I don't feel I'm not worried about that, and we own the building, so it's I have a lot of control here.
yeah.
Um, I think I think that some things that I do are I really try to not do email on the weekends.
Okay.
I make a conscious effort to not do email on the weekends. I um, I don't look at my phone for email like after 6 p.m. You know, because part of it's because I want to focus on my partner and cook dinner, watch TV, talk, chat, and so I don't get distracted by those things.
Mhm.
Um, and if something is really major, I'll get a text. And if that's something that I might deal with it. But generally speaking, nothing is that urgent.
Yeah, and I
Um,
bet your staff probably appreciate that as well.
I think so. I think so. I really try to model that. And the other thing that I do is I don't watch the news.
Really?
I don't watch TV news.
How you stay caught up?
I read the news.
Ah,
I
high five.
read I read the news. Absolutely, high five on that one. TV news is stressful,
Yeah.
and it's structured in a way to raise your anxiety. And
Hmm.
I'm already, um, I have some tendencies towards anxiety,
Hmm.
so I consciously don't read news,
Yeah.
or don't watch news. I read it. I'm on Twitter, and so I see headlines, and I'll go click on it. And one of my struggles in the pandemic, so I've probably had 2 panic attacks during the pandemic.
Okay.
And the second one was when I went down the rabbit hole of reading about people who had been put on ventilators.
Oh wow.
And, because I have some I have some health conditions that could increase my risk of
Mhm.
hospitalizations.
Yeah.
And so I was being really careful about COVID. But
Yeah.
then when I was reading these articles about the ventilators and the ICU, it just was a rabbit hole of like awful experiences. And
Mhm.
then, and I had a rough night and a rough day that next day. And
Yeah.
I thought, wait a minute, I don't need to read that. And
No.
I
No.
don't need to read that. I mean, and it's not like I'm unaware of it. I'm totally
No.
aware. But
Mhm.
I don't need to watch that stuff. It's just like as a therapist, there were certain movies I wouldn't watch because I'd seen it in live. Like I
Yeah.
never saw the movie Precious because I worked with Precious as a
Exactly.
therapist. So I don't need to see a movie about it. That is more distressing to me.
Wow.
So
Wow.
those are some of my coping strategies.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your honesty and your transparency. I think part of leadership is, recognizing what your triggers are, what are the things that could interfere, having a balanced life, just thinking through the things that are going to help you be successful so that you can get to wake up in the morning and get to do the thing that you love doing as an executive director, instead of staying up at night, which I just can't stand that. It's like, well, what keeps you up at night? We're not talking about staying up at night. We're talking about how do I get some rest so that I can be ready to do what I get to do the next day. Talk to me then a little bit more about maybe a piece of advice or some knowledge that you might give to others when it comes to having a mindset, or for being mentally, physically, and emotionally present, and ready to perform, to have that sort of level of achievement that people want so desperately.
Mindset. I think it's important to know yourself.
Hmm.
Like you have to really know your what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Right.
And so that's number one. Be willing to try out different things.
Hmm.
Uh, and then I really think humor is so important. I like if you work with me, we're gonna laugh.
Yes, we are.
We are gonna laugh, and I laugh every day. And it doesn't mean that I don't take things seriously. I absolutely do. But um, you know, it's a more pleasant environment. It's a fun
Mhm.
environment when you can laugh. And
Yeah.
I laugh at myself. I'll be the first to laugh at myself. So
Yeah.
being in
Yes.
on the joke is helpful.
Well, and I think that's something that could get in the way, for people, if, thinking about how do I do this, especially in a pandemic. We talked about, I want to hear more, but I also want to focus on, leading change in chaotic times. I mean, you have a building, you have people, and you made the decision to allow people to work remotely. But how has the pandemic impacted your how you lead?
I'll tell you, I learned some major lessons. First is have a trusted team of
Wow.
le- of leaders of people who can give you advice. Um, I personally got advice from a consultant from Cynthia Mills
Hmm.
in late February, February 25th. She
Yeah.
said, "Watch out for COVID. It's coming and it's going to hit hard."
Yeah.
And she's fabulous. You know Cynthia. She's
Yeah.
amazing, right?
Absolutely, she is.
And so I heard that, and I got to work. And the next day I told my team, get ready for everyone to work remotely. Um, Test everyone working remotely.
Wow.
And so we started doing this. We were doing this before the end of February last year. So almost a year to this day, we were doing that.
Wow.
Gave us a 2 weeks heads notice that to get ready. So that's number one. I think a second thing that I learned is really trust your instinct.
Hmm.
I I was coming into an organization that there were a fair amount of trust issues between between the board and staff, and so I was hesitant, and reluctant is not the right word, but I was cautious.
Yeah.
I would check in, I would make sure along the way, and so I checked in a lot.
Yeah.
This hit, I acted. Decisions, yes, do this, do that, change this, but, um, and I think that was really helpful. And then third is the third lesson I would say is, is go to the fundamentals. Go to the fundamentals. So one of the decisions that I made the year before in 2019 was pivotal in us changing in us being able to go remote. So when I started at CAMFT, we were on a landline-based phone system, hardwired, that we needed someone to change the wires when an office was moved.
Wow.
The phone line had to follow. And upon hearing this and a couple other processes, particularly for 2 remote employees we had at that time, or occasional remote work from home, I thought, the system doesn't work. We need a system that is integrated between work, the office, and work from home.
Yeah.
Okay. And we changed our phone system, which was a painful change. It was not an easy change. And I knew it. I placed a very large burden on my team. But I knew it was the right call. It was the right move for CAMFT in the long run.
Yeah.
And a year later, we were able to go from in the office on one day to remote the next day seamlessly.
Oh, wow.
And some of my executive team said, Nabil, we couldn't have done this a year ago. And I said, and I'm really grateful that I, stuck to my guns. I knew that was a hard call, but it was a fundamental. It was like, no, we have to do this.
Yep.
So.
Well, it sounds like you're able to fluctuate between styles. We talk about leadership styles, and we talk about collaborative and coaching styles, but it sounded like your maybe more traditional style is kind of a collaborative style, but you were able to enact maybe a more authoritative style when the rubber hit the road, and you needed to move quickly to make some decisions and to move some things over. How important is it for us to develop different approaches to leadership as opposed to being a one size fit all? Because that seemed to really work for you. I'm not sure everybody has the ability to shift gears like that.
That I wonder how much of that is my prior history as being a psychologist. And so I flip, I really can match where people are.
Yeah.
And so I wonder how much of that is. I mean, yeah, I would say, I'm glad you said the word authoritative, because I was not authoritarian. Any decision I make is always give me a good argument.
Yeah.
Give me a good argument, and I will change my mind.
Yeah.
And some of the arguments I had against changing the phone system were time.
Yeah.
But time, at the end of the day, that's not a good enough reason to keep a system that doesn't work.
Right.
It's just it really isn't. And hindsight is the best. The next year I was able to say, aren't you glad we did that? And everyone said, oh yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah. What do you think gets in the way of people who want to advance to the C-suite? What do you think interferes with that?
I think being intimidated by the opportunities that are ahead of you. So to give you an example, if you I had as a director, I had a budget of $750,000. That's not uncommon, even up to $1 million, 1.5 million, not uncommon for directors, senior directors to have. And you'll see jobs that say, you must have experience with a $5 million budget. Okay. Yeah, they say that. And that doesn't mean if you don't have it, don't apply. Like,
Right.
apply for the job,
Yeah.
apply for the job, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think if if you never apply, you won't get the job.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you got to try, right?
And have some confidence, right? You got to have confidence in your, because you could take 5 million and turn it 5 million and turn it into 20 million if you have the confidence. It's the tools, the basic tools to got you to 5 million could probably still get you to 20 million if you apply them. But we forget about that. I think we think, oh, it's the number. Really, it's the strategy that gets to the number. Do you know that? Then we can use that to make more. You just may have been dealing with, working with a small deck, but we give you a bigger deck. Let's see what you can do with that.
Yeah. So look for like, I think one thing that is important is to have supervision experience.
Mm-hmm.
Not if you're a director but you don't have a supervisee,
Yeah.
that is going to be a challenge to make a leap sometimes. So getting supervision experience, getting GR in any way you can.
Yeah.
In any way, it could be volunteer work. It could be through a nonprofit you work for. Anyway, a colleague of mine, his fundraising experience is from his volunteer experience on a local board.
Yeah.
That's fundraising.
Yeah. Get out there. You got to roll up your sleeves any way you can. It's like, by any means necessary, I'm going to get this experience. Yeah. They may ask, how did you get this experience? But the experience is the experience is the experience. Can you apply it somewhere else?
Exactly.
You absolutely can. You just got to get the experience and work hard at doing that. I want to shift gears just a little bit, but still talking in this space, because we're talking so much about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I know that you also have a passion around that. In general, what are your thoughts about DE&I, and the role of the C-suite or the executive director, and leaders in addressing it in their organizations?
I am very passionate about DE&I. I was the first Latinx graduate of my PhD program.
Wow.
In 2002.
Wow.
Right? I mean, part of it was rural, but still, it took 26 years, no, 30 years. It took almost 30 years to get a Latino through the program.
Yeah.
So I've been passionate about this ever since I was in college and grad school.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important. I think boards have responsibilities, but then I also think CEOs do as well. And I came here, with some intention on changing improving CAMFT's work on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and have slowly been working on that. Like one example was when I got here, the conference that we had 6 out of 40 speakers were people of color.
Mm.
And for some reason beyond me, I couldn't change the next year. So the next year only had 9, and I was able to, with some cancellations, put in a speaker with a disability, a speaker from a Latinx background. I got a couple on the fringe, couple little things. But right. Last year I was able to we got almost half the speakers were people.
Wow. That's amazing. So they're out there, right?
Yes. I mean, and I think part of it was we weren't asking, we weren't looking, we were just sort of staying with the same. And I just raised the question, and we were able to get some pivots fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations on that. I know that how big that is, how important it is. So thank you for doing that. What about the board? That's the one thing that it seems that's elusive. People who want to advance and move into the C-suite. I know I've worked with several boards from the time I was in my 20s. I was doing board work. So I'm not like afraid of them, but they seem to be the scary beast that people are like, oh my gosh, you got to check out the board before you get the job. What are your thoughts about that? What insights or advice would you share?
I think it is, I think it's very important to trust your gut when you meet with the board or search committee. Um, and then think really critically, do you want to work with these folks on the board? You know, knowing that board's going to change,
Yes.
but you know, it's not, I mean, like, while the people may change, the styles are probably going to be the same.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was very lucky that from the American Psychological Association to the California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, the style's very similar.
Okay.
Right? They're both in the mental health space.
Yeah.
Talk the same language that I talk. And so I know this space. But, you know, and then thinking, compare that to if I were to go to, let's say, the Funeral Directors Association, that might have a very different style. And, you know, or compared to, a concrete association, that might have a different style.
Yeah.
So when you're in that room, think, do you want to spend time with this group? Is there a fit? The CEO search is as much a dance. It's a courtship for you as well as for the organization.
I like that.
You know,
I like that.
So think about, you know, if it's not the right fit, I wouldn't necessarily go for it.
So you have to know a little bit about what you want. Like, this is as much of you checking them out as much as it is them checking you out.
Right.
And you're right, it is a dance. It's a delicate and important dance. You talk a little bit about, you sort of, you know, we talk about the successes, and I know it wasn't easy, and it's never easy. Talk about, and you don't have to talk about the exact mistake or obstacle that you faced, but, you know, how realistic is it, you know, that you're going to run into setbacks, obstacles, you'll make mistakes, and how do you move forward from that? You know, I think that's the other thing that gets in the way. It's like, I don't want to make a mistake. I'm not going to know everything. How do you overcome some of the imposter syndrome, you know, little mistakes, big failures? You know, what's your experience? What advice and insights would you be willing to share?
There's a lot in that question.
I know. I just like dumped it all in.
Just a lot. Okay, so I'm going to go to imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Imposter syndrome, and then maybe we'll go at a different tangent.
Okay. I'll follow you.
And so imposter syndrome is something that I don't experience very much. I'm actually more on the other side. I'm overconfident syndrome.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean I don't have it. I just, not in the C-suite, not in the as an ED, as a CEO, but I was speaking at a conference at NIH, at the National Institute of Health.
Yeah.
And so I was in DC, and I'm in a room with a bunch of scientists, like hardcore scientists. And I was thinking to myself, how did I get in here? and I really got intimidated because on some levels, you know, I have a PhD and I did not pursue the path of success that academics are trained for, which is becoming a professor. I did not become a professor. I did have an academic title at my first job. I was a senior instructor, and I could have become assistant professor. I never did the paperwork. Like, that's the only reason why I'm not.
Okay.
But like, so I'm in this room with all these hardcore scientists, and I was seriously intimidated. Wow. And what I did was, I had just gotten Slack and I was with my DELP class, and I went on Slack and I said, oh my God, I am for the first time, I'm really having some imposter syndrome. And someone on my team, in my class, you got this. You're an expert. You know this. That's what I needed to hear. That's what I needed. So having a team to remind you that you deserve it, that you are worth it. And then I realized I was in the alt career panel, and I was like, oh, that I know. I got this. Once I figured that out, and then my strategy always is crack a joke. So I had made some slides, and I had made an error on the slides, but the NIH, at least this office, they had people who corrected slides, so they corrected it. And so I said, I had put a typo on this slide. I know, because I have my slides right here. And thank you, editor, for correcting it. Thank you. So a little self-deprecating humor goes, like, getting a laugh, especially because this audience, it's a scientific audience. It was dry. So dry, I need a drink right now. It was dry. And so when I got a couple laughs, then and I was one of the few people to get laughs and responses out of this audience.
Oh.
Then I was like, oh, I got it now. But so I think, but the lesson to me was have people who have your back, right? And then a second way I think about is there's this fabulous video. I have it linked on my favorites on YouTube, but it was a UCLA basketball player. So two UCLA basketball players. You might have seen this video, and one was bummed because he missed the shot, and his head was looking down.
Yeah, I saw that video.
And then his teammate lifted his head, and then they walked on. So you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I love that.
It is, you get what you focus on. So if your head is down, you will see all the problems. Lift your head up, and you will see your successes. And so you get what you focus on. So I was going down the rabbit hole of, I'm not worthy. I am a failure as a scientist in that one experience I had. And my friend lifted my chin up. Wow. And so focus on your successes, but then you everyone, like the third thing I think is to have your team.
Yeah. You
have to have a team. I can't imagine stepping into the C-suite role without my team. I have functionally a Rolodex. I mean, I don't think Gen Zers even know what a Rolodex is, but I have a bunch of people that I can text.
Yeah.
And get advice from, and having that peer support is critical. So
yeah. When you think about sort of this space that we're in, and people who might be in transition, looking for opportunities, might be really well prepared for going into the next level, just aren't sure. They're just re-examining life and saying, I just I'm trying to decide, what do I want to do? Do I want to go back into what I was doing? Do I want to move forward and do what do you think is sort of out there in terms of the landscape of work and preparation for advancement in this sort of time of COVID?
It's a tough time because a lot of our colleagues and peers are shrinking staff. And so association space is a mix. There are some that have been really doing well. And then there are a lot that have been shrinking, contracting. And so I think there is some major, so there's competition for jobs right now because there's more people out looking for work than there are jobs that we have. I think there's always times to reinvent yourself. And sometimes these opportunities are that chance to reinvent yourself. I think second is, this is where you get your network. Like, I love on LinkedIn how it says open to work, but there's also potentially a stigma with that. But I think it's so valuable to do that and just let people know. But the other part is, you could tell people, like, everyone should know some connectors.
Yes.
Know people who constantly are asked for people. Yeah. And so there are ways to discreetly, like you just one-on-one tell someone or text, hey, if you see an opportunity, let me know, or drop my name, um, there is, and I understand keeping it quiet. You don't want to, like
put it all out there.
post on LinkedIn. I'm not going to, my current job, if I were looking, I'm not going to say I am looking for work, but I might tell you, I might tell, some of my colleagues who are on the ASAE board of directors or former ASE board of directors. I might tell people I trust, or people I know who get asked a lot.
Yeah.
Because there are people who get asked a lot.
Yeah.
So keep your network alive and talk to them. And even you do that outside of the panic. So when you are in the famine, that your network is thriving.
Yeah. And what's that saying? Your network can equate your net worth. I could say that 3 times really fast, but you're talking a lot about networking, building your personal board of directors. How does somebody, go about doing that? What's some good advice? I mean, you talk about relationships at, very high levels in organizations, in major associations and businesses. How do you build those relationships? Build that network.
I think it is, I think something is about going up and talking to people. Mm-hmm. Recruiters, their job is to know people. And so they're often going to talk to you because they're looking to expand their Rolodex. Mm-hmm. And so it's always worth it to talk to folks. A great story that I think about. So my second ASAE annual, so 2017, I was going to the VIP Classic and I was on a bus because in Toronto we had a bus ride, and I happened to be sitting in front of a recruiter. Oh. And I recognized his name, and so I went and I had an international data plan. So I was on the phone, like I went into my Dropbox and I pulled out, I found out which job I had applied with his search firm. Uh-huh. And I said, hey, I actually applied for one of your positions, and and then it started a conversation, and then it led to a phone call. Like I got a call later on from I sent in my resume again, and then it led to a phone call to talk up deeper about a job opportunity that he had. And so, that didn't pan out, but that network, that recruiter knows me. Recruiter, you talk to people, and get introductions to people.
Yeah. I mean that, and follow up, right? Yeah. Staying connected. Do you think LinkedIn is a good place to build those connections and those relationships?
I think LinkedIn is, it's interesting. I'm now that I'm in the C-suite, I really don't want email. I get so many emails. So I think LinkedIn is a great way. Mm-hmm. And then because there's to me less noise on LinkedIn messaging, I would do that over an email. Yeah. Just because I'm not gonna, like, email honestly is like the bane of my existence.
Wow.
And so and I understand if a recruiter, like, I can't imagine the amount of emails they get. Ooh. So I think, but LinkedIn, like, that's the way I would follow up, is a LinkedIn request after meeting, or, great thing about ASAE and some other events, they tell you who's coming to the meeting, and figure out who you want to talk to before you get there.
Yeah.
Have a plan. I want to talk to these 3 people. Oh, hey, yeah. Good to see you. What do you think of the speaker?
Yeah.
Just chit-chatting and.
Well, we have a question from someone on Facebook. It's some really great information. You covered But any additional tips on setting yourself apart from the competition to advance to the C-suite? Is hard work, is hard work and proven track record enough? So ways to set yourself apart from the competition to advance to the C-suite. And is hard work and a proven track record enough?
That's a good question. That's a good question. So I think sometimes you don't even need the track record. There are some people who get positions who don't necessarily have the track record, but I think you sell whatever you have.
Mm-hmm.
You sell whatever you have, and I think you have to be authentic to yourself. So I think you. No one is going to toot your own horn more than you.
Yeah.
So you have to say it, and if you don't say it, if you don't say it, it's going to be. It's not. If it's in your resume but you don't say it, they're not going to find it. My best example is, so I speak Spanish. I put it everywhere because I want you to know I'm bilingual. Sí, yo puedo hablar español y yo puedo hacer presentaciones en español. I mean, I know my accent sounds like a kindergartner. I understand that.
It sounds perfect to me.
But but I like when I was applying for therapy jobs, it was the second thing under my name. It was degree, language, even though language always is at the bottom. Nope. Spanish goes up to the top.
Yes.
So
knowing how you differentiate and your brand is set apart from other people is incredibly important, and showcasing that obviously in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, how you communicate, I think is incredibly valuable. That's a fantastic tip, because often you're right. We follow the format. Education and experience go to the bottom, but if something's in there that we need to bring up to the top, especially now, I have a colleague, actually a coaching client, who has military background, and was hiding it at the bottom. Now he's rising it up to the top of his LinkedIn profile, his resume, and his bio, because that's hot. If you're you have military background experience and you are in leadership. So knowing how your brand can stand out from the others is really important. I'm sorry, what else? Because obviously hard work and proven track record aren't necessarily enough.
And then, another thing that I think about is a tip that I got from my last coach was, so I got to the interview rounds and we recorded myself in practice interviews. And looked at how I looked. And so my neutral face is somewhat negative. So I'll when I'm like that, I have my face in a tiny frown. And so we practice actually having a slight smile on my face. And I think that was, and those micro things can make a difference. But then a heck of a lot of it is luck. It is networking and then luck. Who are they looking for? Is there an insider track? What does the board want? So you could be the most qualified person, but the board is looking for X. And that's not necessarily stated, but the board has that internal vision. And then sometimes I think if the job isn't right, sometimes there's blessings. Colleague of mine, I was helping try to get another job, and it didn't pan out. And I said, if they're too dumb to not hire you, you don't want to work for them.
That's right. They're lost.
They're lost. And I had this experience 10 years ago. So I applied for a job to try to come back to San Diego, actually.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. Like well, it was gonna. They were talking, and it was moving forward, and then it went radio silent, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then I found out that they decided to go with someone else, frankly, for a dumb reason. But once again, if they don't want to hire me, I don't want to work for you.
Exactly.
And so turns out 10 years, no, 10, that led me, the next opportunity that I applied for was my transition to association space. And it was the perfect opportunity for me. And so I was like, I didn't know that that was the natural fit for me. I've always seen myself as a bridge builder, an ambassador. Actually, I've always wanted to be an ambassador.
Oh.
And in many ways, being a CEO is an ambassador of your brand, of the association, of the industry. I'm an ambassador for marriage and family therapists in California. And so 12 years later, I ended up with this job living next to the company where I would have worked at.
Wow.
So like my apartment that I chose happened to be next door to where I would have worked at had that other job panned out.
Oh, that's amazing.
Life is funny.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. Well, Dr. Nabil, thank you so much. I want to give you the opportunity to have any final thoughts that you want to share to those who are in the C-suite, who are seeking to advance to the C-suite and trying to cultivate change in chaos today. It's truly been a pleasure. We'll be talking to and speaking with people who are in the C-suite all year long, every month. I'm going to have another guest like Dr. Nabil here, who has got that coveted seat and who's going to talk to us about what's happening today, and then give us some advice on how to advance and how to be successful and keep your butt in that C-suite. It's not easy to do, as you've well heard. So Dr. Nabil, would you like to give us any closing thoughts?
I want to encourage those of you who want a C-suite job to keep applying, keep trying. Let your trusted friends know and help you and support you. You have way more support than you realize.
Yes.
And find your cheerleaders, because we all have those cheerleaders, and then find the people who will lift our head. Right. And be that for other people. And I wish everyone the best. I really am a fan of the CAE, so I would say get that. See, ASAE is not paying me, so I'm not branded by them, but I do think it is helpful for that process. And finally, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. That's Dr. Nabil. Twitter is more business. Instagram is more of my other hobby, which is street art photography. That's the way I balance myself, is with street art. I go on, walk around neighborhoods and explore free public art.
Oh my goodness. Look at you. I love it. Well, listen, thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. You have always been a really wonderful friend and colleague. And so I just thank you for taking time out of your busy, beautiful, sunny day on the West Coast. Hopefully I'll get to see you soon. And we'll be able to break bread and have some face-to-face time. Yeah. So again, thank you. I want to encourage you all to please reach out, connect with Dr. Nabil. And if you can't figure that out, give me a call, reach out to me, and I'll certainly make sure that we facilitate the connection. You all have a super fantastic rest of your evening, your afternoon, and whatever you do, be safe and stay well. All right. Bye, everybody.
Take it easy.